As time progresses and cultural values shift, sometimes we find nostalgic comfort in things that we used to like a lot from years ago. But sometimes, when consuming that older media, whether it be a book, a movie, a TV show, a video game, you name it, we stop and think about how, despite it being good at the time period that it came out during, or as much as our fuzzy childhood memories tell us that it was, it probably didn't age the best. This obviously can be due to the content, but it can also be due to the visual appearance and how well that media has been preserved. Or, in the case of video games, specifically as an example, the controls can just be very bad. While realizing that your comfort media isn't as great as you remembered it being, sometimes you also have to wonder at what point should something get a reboot, remake, or remaster for a more modern audience. Hey there, I'm here to interrupt your regularly scheduled entertainment. When I was trying to write articles for a Content Mill website, one of my article concepts was when did an anime specifically need a reboot? And I was going to do kind of a mini-series type of thing with detailing different series that I feel warranted reboots or remakes or whatever, right? One of which was actually One Piece, and hilariously enough, a short time after I stopped writing articles for that website, it was announced that One Piece was indeed getting a reboot. Now, why originally did I think One Piece needed one in the first place? Simply put, because of the differences in animation between the beginning seasons of the show versus the more recent episodes. It's to be expected to have differences in the way that characters look, for example, as animators become more comfortable with their methods of drawing said characters. I mean, look at episode 1 Pearl from Steven Universe versus what she looked like towards the end of the series as a big example. Sometimes it might benefit to go back and refresh what the characters look like from the earlier seasons. I feel like this could possibly really help with flashback sequences and things like that. While not world-shattering, having more consistency within the look of a show can be pretty appealing to a lot of people who might not be as knowledgeable about animation. This is why I think a show like One Punch Man, as an example, could have benefited a lot from a reboot when they switched studios from Madhouse to Bandai. The differences in the appearance of the characters isn't so out of model that it makes them unrecognizable, but the differences between the colors and just the quality of the animation in general is pretty jarring in my opinion. But bigger than just the differences in the appearance of the characters can also be just the differences in the techniques that they use to animate the episodes, correcting some of the errors that were too costly to fix in the earlier eras of animation. Another benefit, while some might whine about it, is that reboots can often remove pointless fluff and filler from works adapted from something else. Since we've been using anime as a big example thus far, the original Naruto is a prime example of something that people have been asking for a reboot for. Famously, the show had a ridiculously long run for filler episodes, 90 or 91 of them in fact, making it almost 41% filler, and I mean like Naruto before Shippuden, for clarification. Although Shippuden did have its fair share of filler too. And since it seems apparent in a lot of fandom spaces that people just don't seem to understand what filler actually is anymore, in this context, I don't just mean a part of a series that you didn't think contributed to the story, but rather entire episodes or arcs that are not a part of the original source material. Shows in the earlier 2000s fell victim to this quite a lot. When a studio didn't want to take a hiatus to allow the manga or light novel series to catch up, anime productions often opted instead to just make shit up, which led to tragic and hilarious alternative endings to franchises, like Soul Eater veering off into the infamous Punch of Friendship conclusion.
I will defeat you!
What is this? You just punched me, your fist isn't a weapon, it's nothing special!
Exactly. Bravery's not special. But that means everybody has it.
And the ending of Blue Exorcist's first season being ignored in favor of animating arcs from the manga later on. Black Butler also went this route of animating arcs, which is odd because the first season of the original show wasn't even faithful to the manga to begin with, and the second season is just even weirder fanfiction.
Just give up and submit to me!
Submit. I'm the one who has you.
Master!
And mind you, I haven't actually watched the newer like arc seasons of Black Butler, but I've been told that they just kind of like randomly like plucked out sections of the manga to animate, so it's not really in chronological order anyway, and it's kind of weird to watch. I enjoy that in more recent times within the anime industry, it seems that production teams are working more closely with the original creators than they appear to have been before, with a lot of the more blatant filler being reserved for OVAs and movies that don't directly impact the flow of the main series, at least for the shows that I watch for the most part. I know that Horikoshi really wanted like the My Hero movies to be canon with his like manga series, but I thought that was unnecessary and it kind of distracted a lot. And just because I've been whining about anime for a while doesn't mean that other media that I listed in the beginning isn't also in need of a good spit shine sometimes. Although it seems that Western media is weirdly obsessed with unnecessary reboots as more of a shallow cash grab than respectful homages to the original source materials. Cartoon Network being a rather infamous example since they seem to be more focused on the concept of selling toys and other merchandise than they are with telling compelling stories. While occasionally they have a hit like Steven Universe, Adventure Time, and similar shows, they also have things like the 2016 version of the Powerpuff Girls and the numerous episodes of Teen Titans Go. This isn't to say that all anime reboots are good. Look at some of the Berserk adaptations and just how ugly they were. And I'm not saying that all Western reboots are bad either, as a lot of people seem to really like the reboot for DuckTales. But we can all agree that sometimes reboots are just not necessary. Key example of this is actually Disney's new business venture of making live-action versions of their old Renaissance films, bloating out their runtime and adding dumb subplots that really don't enhance the original screenplay in the slightest. I'm looking at you, teleportation book in Beauty and the Beast. You were especially fucking stupid. When it comes to animation, we find that it's really hard to remaster older works because of the fact that we just don't have that technology anymore to replicate the techniques that the older animators used. We will never have a film like Akira again, and even if we try to remaster that film, it just won't have the same unique colorization as the original. Our newer technology can also be a detriment to some of the older video games as well, particularly pixel-based games, as old CRT screens had a slight blur to them that enhanced the style of the pixel artwork in a way that our new crisp LCD and OLED screens just can't mimic without modifications. When it comes to video games, I don't think many of them need graphical upgrades. I think that all of the many thousands of remasters of The Last of Us Part 1 and Part 2 are completely pointless. I think part of the charm for older video games is actually the history that you can infer about the advancements within the gaming industry based upon how games that come out today look in comparison to those older titles. That being said, though, I think one contributing factor to some games either getting a remake or simply vanishing from the face of the earth might have something to do with the difficulties involved in reworking their controls for newer controllers and converting the software to newer engines. I'm probably not phrasing that very good, by the way, and I acknowledge that, but I imagine porting a game has similar challenges to opening a Paint Tool SCI file on Photoshop. You technically can't unless you save that SCI file as a Photoshop file in SCI, which then you can, use that to port it over to Photoshop. Which, going back to the game thing, I imagine some older games just can't be saved as a new file type, if that makes sense. Of course, there are also simply the arguments to be made that a lot of games are lost to time simply because there wasn't enough of a demand for them, and thus companies just didn't think that it would be cost effective to preserve them and make them available in other methods. And honestly, love them or hate them, a lot of reboots and remasters boil down to just how well a company thinks it will sell to an audience base. The better or worse of those things is up for the opinion of the customer. I might not like the live-action Disney stuff, but plenty of people do, apparently, according to the box office numbers. And I really loved the new Final Fantasy VII, even though they changed key aspects of the original story, and I know that a lot of people really didn't like that aspect, and that's all okay. I would like to hear your thoughts about what series, movies, games, or literally anything else you would like to see rebooted, remade, or remastered. I'm sure you guys have a long list of awesome things that I probably never even heard of. Like this video if you are at all entertained by my ramblings, and subscribe for more. Basically do everything that the algorithm likes for you to do. This video, like all of my content, is brought to you by Patreon, so thank you so much to Ippo, Alec, Ashley, and Mel for subscribing. If you want to support me on Patreon, tiers start as little as $1 a month. Also, thank you to the channel member, Megan May. That's all for now. This is Finn, signing off. Until next time.
I can't move on till I let go. I feel so lost. lost, never at home. Need to be strong, every breath hold, 'cause I can't move on till I let